Hello and welcome back to part 3 of our windPRO tutorial. In this section we will take a look at Zone of Visual Influence, ZVI, module in windPRO, and also we will take a look at photomontage of our windfarm. In part 1 and part 2 we managed to have an extension of existing wind farm in the UK, Westmill Wind Farm. We managed to add 2 more wind turbines to this wind farm, 2 different types. We managed to understand different types of wind turbines in wind turbine catalog in windPRO software, and we did some assessment in terms of noise assessment and shadow filter assessment in part 2. And now we will discuss about the zone of visual influence. So ZVI, Zone of Visual Influence, also known as Zone of Theoretical Visibility, is basically looking at assessing, calculating, and documenting the visual impact of wind turbine generators. And generally, visibility is an important issue in wind farm developments, but the only point here is that it's a subjective manner. So it's based on the counties or different countries. So might ask some person, what do you think about this wind farm? They might find it interesting in terms of visual appearance, but in some areas they might not find this as visually appealing. So it's a subjective thing, and there is no clear regulations, but ZVI is often required as a part of environmental and impact assessment, EIA. In terms of ZVI module in windPRO, as I said, it can calculate and document the visual impact of wind turbine generators. It can identify location from where 1 or more wind turbines are visible. It can also return us the percentage of a given area where the wind turbines are visible, similar to what we did with the noise and the shadow. And it could also return to us vertical and horizontal angle, subtended angle basically by wind farm. And it will also be able to return us cumulative impact from multiple wind farms. So very powerful tool. We not cover everything here today, but we will take a look at different aspects of this module in windPRO. We have 2 types of calculation in windPRO for the ZVI. The first one, the standard one, which we will use, will be used to identify locations from where wind turbines are visible. So what we are interested generally is that if we can see the wind turbine from some specific distance or not. And usually we take into account topography and obstacles as an optional. But in the UK, we just assume the bare earth model, which means that we just consider the shape of the terrain effect visibility, and we don't consider any other obstacles like buildings or trees, etc., etc. It will give us some numerical, graphical, and map results similar to what we had with noise and shadow, and it can do with and without subtended angles. Basically, how large does the wind farm appear in the field of view? We will not do this today, but this is also possible within the software. In terms of cumulative calculation, as the name suggests, it will be able to give us visual impact of multiple wind farms within the same area. And you need to also different actions to do, but one of them would be group the wind farms in different layers, and 3 layers are a good comparison in terms of the available options. A little bit about subtended angle. So we have horizontal and vertical subtended angle. As I said, we're not going to cover that, but in the short term, horizontal subtended angle basically is an angle between the first and the last turbine, as the image on the left hand side suggests. And vertical subtended angle basically is a height, as the right figure suggests. What we need in terms of the input required in windPRO, so we need a location and the height of where we are looking at the wind turbines. We will need to select an area. We will need to define the grid resolution, and we need the turbine geometry and turbine location, so where the turbine sits, and also in terms of the rotor diameter and the hub height. Those are the infos that we will need as an input for doing the ZVI in windPRO. So as I mentioned before, if you look at the left-hand side, we only need to do the turbine visibility as a standard module. The blue highlights on the left-hand side shows the subtended angle, which we will not do that, and the green one is basically cumulative part. In terms of the area, we will cover 30,000 by 30,000 area for visibility in this case. And in doing the ZVI, you need to always remember seasonality of some obstacles, although in the UK we don't need to consider this. We need to ensure that the large area has been selected, perhaps around 15 kilometers, in our case 30 kilometers. The area needs to be fully covered by the train data, because as I mentioned before, that's the only thing that needs to be considered. And we need to be careful about the DEM and the accuracy of this train data. We have to take a look at also nearby objects in terms of the projects and objects in terms of the wind turbine generators, and we need to take a look at local planning guidances, basically, which is described as ZVI zone of visual influence calculations requirement. If you want to read and understand more about this module, you need to refer to section 6.3 in manual in database knowledge base of the windPRO software, and then you can walk through these different sections. Now is the time that we practice these concepts in the software, so now we jump to the software and start to work with the ZVI module. Coming to the software, so I need to again navigate to environmental and visual tab, and from here I will click on ZVI visual influence module. One left hand click and it will pop up this window for you guys. So on this one, similar to previous one, I should first name my assessment, and in this case I will start to maybe I need to do two different assessments. So I would start with the old turbines. So I would write ZVI, or maybe I just call it old 5 old wind turbine generator. Similar to what we have discussed during the presentation, we'll keep the turbine visibility and only on the turbine visibility tab over here, and then nothing will be checked from the main menu except from the turbine visibility, because I'm not interested in doing, for instance, subtended angle or horizontal subtended angle, or let's say even cumulative calculations. Again, similar to the other module, we will always navigate from left to right. I'm going to navigate to the wind turbine generator tab over here. Because it follows the previous setup, and remember the last time we did for the shadow, we only selected old wind turbine generator, so it's going to be selecting only the existing wind turbine, which is what we are looking for. But just to remind you, you can click here and it will select all 7 wind turbines for us. In this case, which as we named also as a 5 old wind turbines, we are only interested on the old wind turbines, existing wind turbines. So I'm just gonna uncheck new turbines. So as you can see, only 5 objects, which are the existing wind turbines, will be considered for this analysis. Going to the ZVI tab, again from left to right, very similar to what we have done for the shadow. I'm going to leave it as a selected rectangular area as calculation area. I'm going to uncheck anything as JS data on the land cover data to not interfere with our calculations. Remember what we need as an input to this calculation. One of them was the area, and the location. So center for the calculation would be linked to the site center as we have. And for the area, I will put 30 kilometers in this case. So 30,000 meter by 30,000 meter will be covered. And the grid size will be 100, so resolution basically. Eye height, I leave it as a 1.5 as an average height of a person. You can leave it as a 175, 165, any number that you want. Calculations in windPRO in the ZVI module could happen in couple of ways. One of them is the total height. So this height basically is a tip height, the total height of the turbine. You can also maybe use only hub height or the portion of wind turbine height. But for this case, we leave it as a 1, which means that the total height of turbine up to tip height will be calculated. We leave it as other options as a default option, and the description, you could write any descriptions you want. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK in this case. It will ask me if I want to start the calculation immediately. I would say yes. It will take some moments to do the calculation for us, but as you can see immediately here, now the ZVI is added to my calculation. So now I have a new calculation called ZVI for 5 old wind turbine generators. The map now has this layer, and also I can see result layer here, so I can toggle off and on this one as well. I will do some zoom out here. So this is basically the area of 30 kilometer by 30 kilometer. If you use the ruler, it should give you the same area more or less as well, which is around, as I said, 30 kilometers. So at this point, what needs to be done, basically what I need to do at this point is to look at this result. From result layer, if I right click and then click on show legend, it will show me the legend, and what the image basically shows me is like the blue areas are 0 and the other areas is between 1 to 5. If I double click on the result layer on a standard ZVI result, this window will pop up, and basically it shows me all the information I need. If I move my cursor on the map, as you can see, if you look at and pay attention at, so what it says is 5 old wind turbines, standard ZVI at cursor, it's 5. So while I'm moving this, so imagine in the orange areas it says 5, in the blue areas it says 0. I have some areas that only 2 wind turbines are visible, maybe 3 are visible here. So even at 30 kilometers, I have areas that all 5 of my wind turbines are visible. One point that you need to remember here is that it's a bare earth model, as we mentioned before, so it's considered only the trains and not any obstacles like buildings, streets, etc. The other point that needs to be mentioned here as well, so when it says 5 wind turbines is visible, it basically tells you how many and not how much of those turbines are visible. So might be only a little bit of the tip of the wind turbine would be visible from this distance if we don't consider any obstacles. One point that I would like to also work on this example here is that, so as you can see now, the limit is between only, it either shows 0 with the legend, or it just shows 1 to 5, yeah? If you click on these 3 dots over here, you can basically modify your legends as well. What you could do theoretically is, so a couple of points that you could do. You either could change the colors. So by, maybe I would, if I turn this to white, both of these colors, and click OK, all the areas that it used to be blue areas for the areas that there were no wind turbine visible, now it turns transparent. So it means that in these areas I'm not going to be able to see any wind turbine. So basically I'm just modifying the legend. I will close this. We'll come back to this in our second example. So I will leave this as it is. We've done the calculation for 5 wind turbines. Remember that we did also the cloning in the previous example. So to repeat that, because now I'm interested to see what would be the difference between this one and the new turbines. I right click on this, and then I would do clone. And with doing the clone, basically I generate a new calculation similar to the previous one, but needs to be done as well. So I will double click on that, and I'll start to modify the options for the calculations. Here, instead of 5 old wind turbines, I would write maybe 2. Remember, we add 2 new wind turbines. If I move this over here, so 2 new turbines. I'll keep it as same options as the previous one. Moving to the right, and this one, in this time, I'll just click on and check the key new turbines. So nothing from the existing wind turbines will be selected. 2 new turbines will be selected. Going to right again, nothing will be changed because it will follow the old setup. So 30 kilometer by 30 kilometer, resolution of 100 meter, eye height of 1.5 meter, and I'm interested to do the calculation up to the tip height of the wind turbines. And description, I could write anything I want. I click OK. It will ask me if I want to do it immediately. I will say yes. It will take a few moments for us to do the now ZVI for 2 new wind turbines. Okay. I will do the similar stuff as well here. So I'm just going to select this part, and I will change the 0 to white as well over here. I will click OK, and then so what it shows basically, if I turn off the new, or what I can do, perhaps I can also change some colors over here. So here I would put maybe green, for instance. Let's see what happens with the coloring. I hope it would be visible as well. So as you can see here, these areas that it used to be not visible. So if I turn off the old layer, so I will show you this layer. So as you can see here, it shows in these areas specifically, there are no wind turbines visible to eye. But if I turn off this and turn on this layer and have this on the overlay, as you can see now in these areas, if I double click on this, so in these areas, as you can see now, I'm able to see, if you look at this part at cursor, I could see 2 wind turbines. This basically shows me that because these new wind turbines are bigger, and those bigger wind turbines will show, we will be able to see them in those areas, because those are like the height of those wind turbines are higher. Okay, so and then as I said, you can also modify this. What other point that I would like to mention here is that, so as you can see in the legend at the moment, it's only, we have 2 number of lines, and it's basically either we see it in the colors as a 0, or I could see any between 1 and 2. So, and if you look at the previous one, especially on this one, what I see here is only, if I click on this, I only see either it shows me 0 as the transparent areas, and then anything between 1 and 5 will be colored in the area between yellow and orange, depending on the color. If I want to distinguish them in more details, I can increase the lines to perhaps maybe 6, and then in this case I put right 2 over here, so it will show 0, 1, and then I put 3 over here. It will modify this one is 3, so 1, 2, 3. If I write 4, it's gonna overwrite the previous row, and if I write 5 over here, it's gonna overwrite the previous one. Okay, so what I have here is now I have 6 layers, 6 rows, and each row basically shows a number of the turbine would be visible. If I change the colors, so on this one I'll keep it as yellow, and I change this one to yellow as well. When I have like 3 wind turbines, I'll keep it as orange, for instance. So it will show orange when we have 2 wind turbines. When I have 3 wind turbines, I might be interested to show them as a blue. I'll repeat the process for all of them basically. When I have 4 wind turbines, I might want to show them as pink or red, or any color that you want. So when I have 5 wind turbines, I could use another color like let's say green to show this 5 wind turbines. Okay, now basically each color will represent a number of wind turbines. If I click OK, now it's gonna be modified, and as you can see, if I zoom in, for instance in this area, as you can see, Now I know that this area, which is transparent, no turbine will be visible. In this area, one turbine will be visible, represented by the legend, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in this case, we can basically modify our legends as well, which is quite useful in some cases as well. So if you want to modify them and show them in a way that we would be interested to do so. Okay. And what else I would like to also show is that, so I have another layer over here as well. I can maybe double click on this and change color to maybe blue, and it will basically show in this way for us. So if I turn off this one and then do some zoom out, we will be able to see for the new wind turbines. What I could do as well, I could also maybe make a comparison between these ZVI results from the old and new wind turbine. As you can see, it's not very easy to do. So what I could do to do that, in the result layer, if I right click on this, I can create a compare layer. And on this one, in the compare layer window, I need to select two layers that I wish to make a comparison between them. So for the layer 1, I will select 2 new wind turbines standard ZVI, and for the layer B I would select 5 old wind turbines standard ZVI. I wouldn't make any changes, but I would just maybe name this compare layer ZVI, yeah, as a name of the output, and I click OK. What would happen now, as you can see, now it compares those two with me. If I double click on the result layer, I can change the color to a color that I wish to have. So maybe even from this area I could select the one that I feel that is more visually appealing. So I go with this one, and as you can see here on this image, so now what I have, if I double click again on this, so at cursor here, so basically the areas that is not blue, so here because -3, but the areas that are not blue basically shows the difference between the old and the new one. So here, so basically these are the areas that I can see the both 2 new wind turbines in comparison to the 5 existing ones. Here I can perhaps see, yeah, because both of them are quite tall, so I could theoretically see all of them in most cases, as you can see here. So I can see 2 new wind turbines. And similar to shadow and also decibel module, I can also generate the results. So even for the 5 old wind turbines, I can right click on the results, export, and I can do Google RSKMZ file. Okay. I can save this as ZVI. I will click save and I will open this, and it will automatically transfer data to Google Earth for me if it's installed on my system. And it's the best to do is to turn off the noise and also the shadow results, and now it's only gonna be the ZVI results. So as you can see here, now I have some areas that wind turbines are not visible, but I have other areas that all the 5 old wind turbines are visible or different in terms of the legend that I had. Okay, that's all for the ZVI, and now we have to move on to the photomontage module. So the next point would be realistic representation of the project from a given point of view, and then for this purpose we could use photomontage or animation module from windPRO. So this is the final results, what we're going to achieve after this section. So as we know, we had 5 existing turbines investment wind farm, and then we will try to mimic and have an image of realistic representation of the 2 new wind turbines that we have added to the site. As I mentioned, two modules are available in windPRO. Photomontage, which is a classic approach, so just one image and one photo that we will try to use it for representation of our project in real sense, and the other one would be animation photomontage with rotating turbines. As we all know, visual impact is one of the most crucial elements when we are obtaining permissions, and is similar to what we done with the ZVI module. It's again it's subjective concept, so and it depends on how you view the planning and the permission and the construction of the wind turbines. However, wind turbine generators can be visually dominant on the landscape, so it needs to be considered, and in many countries photomontages are a key part of the environmental impact assessment. In terms of the photomontage, our goal is to give a realistic representation of the project from a given point of view, as I mentioned before, and dimension needs to be real, based on the real size, and it should be apparent based on the distance and focal lengths. Lighting condition should be based on the time of the day or year with a good weather condition, and orientation of the rotor would be based on the wind direction that we have. What we need in terms of the inputs required for doing the photomontage, so obviously we're going to need the location, model and the size of the existing or the new wind turbines. And then what we will need the location where the photo has been taken, and the details of that photo in terms of the focal length, orientation, date and time. And at the on top of what we need in terms of the location, a good image would help us as well in terms of what kind of information is present in the landmark as well. So what we need to do and how we do it, we should start by running the ZVI as we did previously to understand, okay, where would be visible. Then we will agree in terms of the location, in terms of the planning permissions, etc., where we're going to take the photo. We will take the photo by site visit. We will input the data in windPRO. We will do picture calibration in terms of the focal lengths and matching with the landmark, and then we will render the turbines and we will export the results. How we take the photos. So in this tutorial we will use a Google Street View photo, and so we will not take the photo, but if you need to take the photo, the focal length is important. It needs to be in 50 mm, similar to what human eye are doing. It needs to be good weather, good condition generally for taking the photo, with a good distance, 500 to 5,000 meters from the turbines that we are planning to photomontage them. And we have to know exactly where we are taking the photo, and we have to do all the calibrations, landmarks in consideration as well. So minimum we need one landmark on the left and one landmark on the right, and 500 meters from the camera. Accuracy of the elevation data is also, in terms of the DEM, is also very important doing photomontage as well. So as I said, we can calibrate the images as well. It could be with the landmarks both found on the map and the photo, and you can tilt it, panning or rotating, or change the focal length of photo in windPRO. So windPRO gives you this ability, these tools to do that. And you could also do with the elevation data shown and given in the software. Remember from this morning that for photomontage, the coordinate of the photo are easting 42, 39, 10 easting, and northing 190935. So we will use this coordination for photomontage exercise. If you want to read more about this module, you can take a look at knowledge base of windPRO section 7, which is focused on the visuals, and specifically 7.1 in terms of the photomontage. Now it's time again for us to come back to the software and start to practice this module as well. To do that, So I have different tools to work with. So on the left hand corner of this window, you can see I have pan, tilt, rotation and focal length. You remember probably from the slides that in order to tilt or pan, you need to hold Control and then use the left key on the mouse, and what it would do basically would move this yellow line, which is basically is based on the train data that I have. So I can move this in order to match with what I have here. I can also take this image a little bit to the right hand side, but as you can see here, okay, I can, but again, holding Control on the keyboard and then left key on the mouse, I can move this around. So as you can see, it's quite large at the moment in comparison to what it should be. So what my plan here is to first using objects in the image, so existing wind turbines, in order to match with the overlay layer that I have here. I can use and keep shift and it would rotate it, but at this case, because, so I can show you as well, so as you can see, I can rotate it by holding the shift on the keypad and then using left key on the mouse, I can rotate it. So at the moment I just don't need to rotate it because it was quite okay, so I put 0. And then the next would be the focal length in terms of the distortion. So holding Alt on the keypad again and then using a left key on the mouse, I can adjust this in terms of the focal length as well. I can also zoom in a little bit here just to make sure that everything is matching with what I'm doing here. Again, I will keep now Alt on the keypad to adjust the focal length, and then I can also use Control to move it around. So what I can do now, I will try to do a couple of stuff. First, I would try to remember to match the train. So basically this yellow line needs to be matching with the train that I have. So this is somehow is matching, but then the next would be the matching the wind turbines. I'll need to use this focal length adjustment, holding Alt on the keypad and then again holding Control and try to adjust. So again, I will try to do that. Maybe I'll use this as a case to do. Again, it's not matching. I will try again to adjust some focal lengths to be able to adjust as much as possible. So I need to basically work with this until I've got the correct values and numbers. So again, I need to perhaps do a little bit more. So maybe this should work. So I'll again hold the Control this time and again try to adjust it. So yeah, not too bad. I think that should do the work. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not also far from what I was looking for. I can maybe work a little bit more, trying to adjust it as much as I could, and then hold again the Alt and then try to adjust it. So I think that should be mostly what I'm looking for. I mean, it's not going to be the ideal, but what it will do. So as you can see, this one is quite okay. This one is also quite okay. This one is also quite okay. This is also quite okay, also a little bit off from the background image, and also this one is quite okay. So maybe 2, 3, both of 5 is matching, and also the terrain is now matching. So that should be a good sign for me to be okay. I'm at least in a right or in a good position. What I need to do now, once I've done this, so basically I need to start to render this. So what I can see here at the moment is both existing turbines and new turbines. So obviously, because the existing turbines is already in the image, I don't need to render it. So I will turn off the existing turbines. And now what software will do will render this based on my data. Perhaps because this one will be aligned with the previous one, what I could do, I can perhaps try to render this first. Let's do one rendering. So in order to do the render in this window, you can, or either you could press F9 on the keyboard or press render, and it will do the rendering for you, and it will try to have same images for us as well. As you can see, it will take some moment. Once it's done, I'll be back and we can discuss about it. To do that, so I have different tools to work with. So on the left hand corner of this window, you can see I have pan, tilt, rotation, and focal length. You remember probably from the slides that in order to tilt or pan, you need to hold Control and then use the left key on the mouse, and what it would do basically would move this yellow line, which is basically is based on the train data that I have. So I can move this in order to match with what I have here. I can also take this image a little bit to the right hand side, but as you can see here, okay, I can, but again, holding Control on the keyboard and then left key on the mouse, I can move this around. So as you can see, it's quite large at the moment in comparison to what it should be. So what my plan here is to first, using objects in the image, so existing wind turbines, in order to match with the overlay layer that I have here. I can use and keep shift, and it would rotate it. But at this case, because, so I can show you as well. So as you can see, I can rotate it by holding the shift on the keypad and then using left key on the mouse, I can rotate it. So at the moment, I just don't need to rotate it because it was quite okay. So I put 0. And then the next would be the focal length in terms of the distortion. So holding Alt on the keypad again and then using a left key on the mouse, I can adjust this in terms of the focal length as well. I can also zoom in a little bit here just to make sure that everything is matching with what I'm doing here. Again, I will keep now Alt on the keypad to adjust the focal length, and then I can also use Control to move it around. So what I can do now, I will try to do a couple of stuff. First, I would try to remember to match the train. So basically, this yellow line needs to be matching with the train that I have. So this is somehow is matching, but then the next would be the matching the wind turbines. I'll need to use this focal length adjustment, holding Alt on the keypad and then again holding Control and try to adjust. So again, I will try to do that. Maybe I'll use this as a case to do. Again, it's not matching. I will try again to adjust some focal lengths to be able to adjust as much as possible. So I need to basically work with this until I've got the correct values and numbers. So again, I need to perhaps do a little bit more. So maybe this should work. So I'll again hold the Control this time and again try to adjust it. So yeah, not too bad. I think that should do the work. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not also far from what I was looking for. I can maybe work a little bit more, trying to adjust it as much as I could, and then hold again the Alt, and then try to adjust it. So I think that should be mostly what I'm looking for. I mean, it's not going to be the ideal, but what it will do. So as you can see, this one is quite okay. This one is also quite okay. This one is also quite okay. This is also quite okay, although a little bit off from the background image, and also this one is quite okay. So maybe 2, 3 out of 5 is matching, and also the terrain is now matching. So that should be a good sign for me to be okay. I'm at least in a right or in a good position. What I need to do now, once I've done this, so basically I need to start to render this. So what I can see here at the moment is both existing turbines and new turbines. So obviously, because the existing turbines is already in the image, I don't need to render it. So I will turn off the existing turbines, and now what software will do will render this based on my data. Perhaps because this one will be aligned with the previous one, what I could do, I can perhaps try to render this first. Let's do one rendering. So in order to do the render in this window, you can, or either you could press F9 on the keyboard or press render, and it will do the rendering for you, and it will try to have same images for us as well. As you can see, it will take some moment. Once it's done, I'll be back and we can discuss about it. So once it's done, you could be able to see those 2 new turbines. Obviously this one, because it's aligned with the view of the existing wind turbine. So I wish to maybe move it a little bit to the far right and try to render it again in order to get a little bit better view of these new wind turbines in respect to the existing ones. Okay, now it's not too bad. The only issue at the moment with this rendering is that, as I can see from the map, so I have first the existing wind turbines, and the next, behind those wind turbines, I should have a new wind turbine. So at the moment, what appears from the image is that my new wind turbine ahead of the existing ones. So what I could do, I could use the rubber tool, and I could remove the part that I think that it's not correct. So if I remove this part, that would be basically rendered at the back. So this is what I'm looking for. Now I can render it again, and hopefully this time would be more realistic. And I can also zoom in a little bit more. So what we could see here is almost these 2 are aligning with each other. I can maybe try different degrees as well. I could perhaps put minus 85, zoom out and do rendering again. Let's see what happens with the tilt angle of these wind turbines, hopefully trying to match with the wind direction of the time that I was doing it. Or maybe I could do, just to show you the difference, I could put minus 50 or like some other numbers here. So maybe 40 or so here I would put, for instance, instead of minus 90, I would put minus 125. I would click OK, and it will do the rendering for me. And as you can see, maybe this looks much more realistic. As I said, we could work with the different numbers. 105, we will do the rendering, and it should be able to give us a more realistic image than what we were looking for. So a couple of things, as I mentioned, that we need to bear in mind when we are doing all these sorts of the renderings, the first point would be looking at these yellow lines, which basically are the train data, and then trying to match the or image with the existing objects in our image. So in this case there was 5 existing wind turbines, and then later on try to render it based on the on those adjustments. What we need to do now, we can, if we are satisfied with what we are seeing, obviously we can save that image. We could click on this floppy disk over here. We can select the format that we are looking for, so JPEG in this case. I would save this, define a directory for this, so I would use desktop, and then says that it's photomontage 1. I will save this, and if I open this, it's been saved now. It will pop on the screen, and as you can see here, now I have these new wind turbines as photomontage in respect to what we had previously. What else I could do on top of that? I could use photomontage menu in the environmental and visual tab, and I would do photomontage as well here, photomontage report, and I would put a name, so I would write this photo and new wind turbine generator. I would check the camera, so I only have one camera input, and wind turbines, I only consider the 2 new wind turbines. The others I would leave them as it is. I would click OK, and it will, so if I close this, it will generate the result in the calculation section for me, similar to the previous one. So now I have this photo montage for the new wind turbines, and I have the camera element over here, similar to the previous one. Right click on that, print, and I can have this as a print report of my photo montage. It will take some seconds to do that, and it should give me the report for photo montage as well, similar to what we have done with the decibel module, shadow module, and also ZVI module. So I can also generate it as a PDF file, as I mentioned before. So this is what I was interested to see. So now I can see these 2 new turbines details, where the image has been taken, and obviously the report as well. And as you can see, this is what I have. Perfect. So as I said, I can also copy to clipboard any element from the report as well. The last part, which is going to be focused on energy calculation, and will be focused more on using the park, using gas and wind data. So we will do this for existing and also the new wind turbines in the last part, and that should be a comprehensive tutorial of using windPRO software. Thanks for watching, and catch up with you in the next video. Have a good day.